We're so happy to have with us here tonight to help think through this text a little more, Dottie Fromal. And Dottie grew up in Philadelphia and attended college in Ohio. And she was first introduced to community organizing during a college internship with the mayor's subcommittee on homelessness in San Francisco. She served in the Peace Corps in Nepal in the early 1990s and followed that time with 2 years in China, where she taught English at the University of Finance and Economics. And after more than a dozen years of living in New York City, she spent 2 years in Tanzania, where she volunteered with the Rift Valley Children's Village and Peace Matunda. She came to visit some old college friends in Ohio back in 2016 and never left. She has continued her work with children, served on the Nelsonville City Council, founded the Nelsonville Community Dinner, and has volunteered with the Ohio Poor People's Campaign since 2020. She recently started working with Repairs of the Breach as a national field team organizer. Dottie, so glad to have you here and to share a bit about this text and your work. Whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Adam. Well, let's see. The passage speaks to me in so many different ways, and sorry, I'm very nervous. I'm new to the Bible. I have been learning a lot, and every day I learn more. And I want to connect this to the community dinner that we've held here in Nelsonville since 2017, where I worked as I ran an after-school program for children, a drop-in center where children could come and have a safe place to be after school until about 6 o'clock in the evening. And I realized that the children were not wanting to go home at 6 o'clock. Sometimes it was because they were hungry. We always served snacks at our program, but they knew they wouldn't eat maybe until they went to school the next day. Sometimes it was because they were lonely because their parents were working or otherwise unavailable. So what we decided to do is have a community dinner for the children. So we started one week with 12 children. I invited a friend to help me. We made a big pot of spaghetti. We set the table, and we had an amazing meal where everyone sat at the same table and shared about their day and talked and laughed. And we all helped clean up at the end of the night. And the next week, we decided to do it every single week. We weren't going to stop. We had about 25 children. And the following week, we had even more. And then I noticed that kids were taking home leftovers in their pockets. And I asked, why are you taking that home? Are you still hungry? And they said they were taking it home for their mom or their grandma. And so immediately we thought, why don't you just invite them to come have dinner with us? And before we knew it, we had 100 people at our dinner table. And we had to switch to using paper plates and plastic forks because we just could not wash that many dishes at the end of the evening. But we had this amazing community, and it wasn't one person serving another. It kind of wasn't quite a potluck, but everyone pitched in. People cooked at home and brought the food together. And what people were coming for, as I realized as it went on, wasn't necessarily the food. It was the community. People were coming an hour early, 2 hours early, just to help set the table and talk to one another and get to know their neighbors. We live in this town here in Nelsonville. It's an old coal mining town in southern Ohio, very Appalachian. And there's maybe 2 restaurants in town, and neither one of them are very welcoming to people coming and lingering with their families. We have a couple fast food restaurants, but that's very expensive to go out with your family if you have 5 or 6 kids. So this was really the only place where folks in our community could come and feel welcomed and linger and talk to your neighbors, unless you were inviting them up on your porch. So it became a community event. And before we knew it, we were serving up to 300 people a week. And I don't know how we did it. We never really planned in advance. It was just like chaos from beginning to end, but magical the entire way. And I tell people that it was many miracles that kept us going. For example, we sometimes would get donations of food, and sometimes people would see me at the grocery store buying food with a large basket, and they would contribute $20 or $40 at the checkout, which was amazing. And one time we just didn't have enough money to buy salad, and the farmer's market didn't have anything available that week. And so we're coming home from the grocery store, and I'm thinking, oh, it'll be okay. We don't need a salad this week. And salad is a favorite among our children because we only have one grocery store here. And if you can't drive there, there's nowhere to buy salad goods. So they always gobble that up at our dinners. So we're driving home, and someone calls me on the telephone, and they just had a business meeting, and they had a large salad, a very large salad meant for 50 people that they did not use, and would we like it for a community dinner? And so we had salad that week, and things like that happened every single week. And when we were doing this community meal, something started happening. Like we felt this energy in the room that was just bubbling into something more, and we knew that something special was happening, and I couldn't identify it. I didn't know what it was. I've never witnessed anything like it before, but people started recognizing that we had power as a group, and people would come to us and want to know our opinions on things that were happening in the community. For example, they were trying to close down our voting polls here in town and move them outside of town about 2 or 3 miles away, up a steep hill on a dangerous road with no sidewalk, essentially taking away, our voting possibilities on election day, because so many people in our town don't have a car. And I can't imagine pushing a baby carriage up this hill, this dangerous hill, to go vote, especially on a windy or rainy day. And the Nelsonville community dinner folks gathered together, and we went to the Board of Elections, and we had a big turnout, and they changed their mind about that. And I think that would not have happened if we hadn't discussed it during our community dinner, and we all realized how important it was for us to vote. So we started getting some influence. It was amazing. Sorry, I'm really rambling, but what I'm trying to say is, so there was this pastor, Pastor Peter Galbraith. He was here in town, and he used to help with our community dinner. He would serve, he would never preach, help cook food, help serve food, play with the children, entertain folks. And people really, really wanted to have a prayer at the meals. And he started offering a prayer before the meals. And it occurred to me through his influence that what we were doing was really a ministry as much as it was community organizing. And that opened my eyes to something I had never seen, or I hadn't put words to before. Maybe I've been doing community organizing my entire life, but I never connected it with God's work of serving one another and loving our neighbors. And it just seems so obvious, and I don't know how I missed it before then. But since I've recognized that, I just my eyes were opened and I can't go back. And now I'm just learning more and more. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm so nervous, but during COVID, so COVID happened, we're serving meals. It happens in March. We have our Thursday dinner. Schools are shutting down, and we're like, well, we'll continue until we're told we're not allowed to. And then everything got shut down, and we were told we weren't allowed to by the health department. So without missing a single week, what we did is a few volunteers came together. We were in a big workspace. We were separated by 6 feet. We wore masks and gloves and everything, and we prepared meals and put them in boxes, and we delivered them. The first week, we made sure that every family that regularly came to the dinner received a box. And it wasn't just like putting a box of food on their porch. It was knocking on the door, stepping away, making sure that we put eyes on the family and the children, and making sure that someone was checking in on them, because no one was checking on anyone here in Nelsonville. And the second week, people started calling in and say, can we be added to the list? People from out of state were calling and asking for us to add their elderly parent to the list because their parent couldn't get to the grocery store, and could we deliver a meal to them on Thursday nights. So we did that for close to a year. And we had about 12 drivers, and they each delivered 15 to 20 boxes of food every Thursday night to different families. And I think we served over 19,000 meals during COVID. And it was all volunteer, all donations. The meals were donated, the supplies were donated. There was a lot of pressure from people in the community for us to become a 501c3, but we didn't want to do that. We were more about mutual aid and just caring for one another and not bothering with all of that paperwork and accounting. We just wanted to make the food and deliver it and love our neighbors. Yeah, so that's what we did. And I don't know, it brought me to the Poor People's Campaign, because once I saw that our work wasn't just community organizing, but was also connected to the work that God wants us to do in loving our neighbors, I started searching other faith-based community organizing programs, and I found the Poor People's Campaign. And I listened to Reverend Liz and Bishop Barber, and I was so inspired by everything I was hearing, that I joined the Ohio Poor People's Campaign, and the people of the community center joined right along with me. And 2 years ago, I think we brought maybe 35 people from Nelsonville to Washington, D.C., many of them for the very first time. Last year, we brought more than a dozen people for the several days. And this past Saturday, we had about 20 folks from Nelsonville show up in Washington, D.C. And just last night, we had a little gathering to share our experiences about what we learned there. And everyone had an inspirational moment that they shared with us. And anyway, thank you for letting me share all of that. I'm sorry I'm rambling, but I'm really happy to be here tonight and share a little bit of what we do here in Nelsonville.